Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cub Chat Live. It's a really exciting day today. We're talking about a subject that is really important for us to touch on. And honestly, we've got one of my favorite guests ever, Cub Chat Mike. I love the way he frames these episodes. Hi, Cub Chat Mike.
Hi, Gina. Good to see you. And this wonderful another session of Cup Chat Live.
It is so great to see you. We're very glad to have you on the show today. We're talking about an important topic, but guys, before we get into that, I want to remind everybody you can watch past episodes of Cub Chat Live. You can see our upcoming schedule. You can get all the information you want on episodes of Cub Chat Live at the URL at the bottom of our screen. Quick good afternoon to Pack 21, Troop 38, Pack 38. Also a reminder, you may be watching this on YouTube, you may be watching this on Facebook. No matter where you are watching, please join the live conversation, comment along with the show. We can see all your comments. We will address them as makes sense and as we have time. But today, Cub Chat Mike, we're talking about conflict within the pack, right?
That's right. Today's topic, Gina, is conflict resolution. And of course, you could fill a library with books and articles on this particular subject. The internet is full of suggestions. So I asked myself as I prepared for our session today, what about conflict resolution that is most applicable to Cub Scout packs? And in that analysis, I came up with three possible situations that I want to discuss today. Situation number one is conflicts between a pack and maybe a parent or a family member of a Cub. The second thing I want to talk about is conflict with a Cub Scout pack and the Cub Scout, maybe a Cub Scout, or maybe there's a conflict between Cub Scouts. And then the third thing I want to talk about is potential conflicts between pack leadership, when sometimes just the leaders just are not seeming to get along. So that's the subject for today. Now, I always start my presentations, as you know, with a Cub Scout riddle, with a Cub Scout joke. And I always get these from my wolf grandson. He seems to be full of them. So are you ready? I'm going to give you the first half of this Cub Scout riddle.
I am so ready. Our audience is ready.
Here's the question that I want you to think about. And if you have the answer or you think you have an answer, go ahead and let Gina know, because we're going to answer the question here, the riddle, at the end of the show. So here it is. What do you call a group of small sheep going down a very steep hill? So we've got a group of small sheep coming along and they're going down a very steep hill. What do we call them? I will tell you this, my Cub Scout wolf knows the answer to that, and you will also at the end of the show.
What I love about these is that you can take them right to your next pack meeting if you're a leader. I mean, we're not hugging these jokes from you. So stay tuned till the end of the show if you want to hear the thrilling resolution to that riddle. Also, you can comment if you think you know the answer. We'll save it till the end. I'll make sure I give you a shout out if you got it correct. Also got to give a shout out to Eugene, who says hello from the Harmonious Pack 208 in Lexington, North Carolina. I'm so glad that you guys all are getting along and that there are not a lot of conflicts there. But honestly, conflict is a part of life. If you got a group of people together, kids together, there's going to be conflicts. And it sounds like there are different kinds of categories of conflicts. I think somebody has the joke answer. Sorry, I'm laughing internally because I just read it.
Okay. Well, now listen, as additional background of the comments I'm going to make today, these are my personal comments, my personal thoughts. I didn't take any of these from commissioner tools or training. And while I've got my wood badge beads, I didn't take any of the material that I'm going to talk today about from the wood badge course. These are just my own personal thoughts. However, I've been the father of 3 kids, the grandfather of 3 sons. I've been a commercial lawyer for years. All we do is conflict resolution. I've been married forever. Talk about conflict there. So I think, Gina, I am pretty close to an expert on what doesn't work. I have had enough issues not work out that I may be an expert in what you shouldn't do.
I like that because it actually makes me think too. if you are of a certain age and you're living a somewhat peaceful life, or maybe your professional life is somewhat peaceful, or your family life is somewhat peaceful, you have conflict resolution skills. You are able to solve conflict resolution or conflicts, or you'd be probably a really unhappy person.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Now, a little bit more background before I get into the first conflict discussion, and that is, remember, we are scouts. We're not talking about meetings with homeowners associations or neighbors across the back fence. These are scouts issues. So when you have a conflict arise, take a deep breath and remember, we want to approach this problem from the background of the Scout Oath, the Scout Law, the aims of scouting. Look at these great pictures on the screen. Boy, there are no conflicts there yet anyway. Remember, the aims of scouting: character development, citizenship, leadership development. We want to make sure that as scout leaders, we approach all of the conflicts with these important principles as background. Okay, now, the very first conflict I want to talk about: what if you have a conflict with a parent, maybe a mom and dad, or maybe a family member? What do? You're in the pack and there's something going wrong. Well, you need to meet with the party face to face, if at all possible. You can try to handle these by email or text messages, but the probability of resolution goes up dramatically, significantly, if you can have a face-to-face meeting. And the general rule, at least my general rule, is that it's better to have two representatives of the pack, not just one, in this meeting. First of all, 4 ears are better than 2. You've got a witness there if things really go south. So I recommend a face-to-face meeting with a couple of members from the pack. Well, who should be at the meeting with these parents? Well, you use your judgment. You're going to have different situations arise, of course, but what you really want in that meeting from the pack standpoint is a really good listener. And if the problem is between a parent and a den leader, maybe that den leader is there. Maybe that den leader is not there, but another den leader. Maybe you've got the cub master or the committee chair. It's a judgment call. And what you need to do is just figure who is going to be there. Who do you want to be there? Okay. The meeting really should be private. It could be before or after a pack meeting, or depending upon how serious the issue may be, a Saturday morning over a cup of coffee would be a good idea. But you want the meeting private. You don't want other people listening in. Now, here's the most important point I want to make on this meeting. Give the person with the problem all the time they need to express what's bugging them. This is their opportunity to get off their chest what they think isn't right that you might be able to fix. Don't interrupt them. Don't say along the way, oh, well, I think, what about this? Or what? Forget, let them talk. Don't interrupt and just sit there. I've had situations arise where after someone has aired their grievance and I say to them, well, what do you believe we should do? I've actually had the complaining party say, well, I'm okay now. I just wanted to express my frustration. So if they're talking, let them go. It's a basic human need, I think, Gina, that people need their day in court. They need to feel as if they're being heard. In a legal situation, I've had many mediations, and people want to tell their story. They want to say to the other party, this is why I think I'm aggrieved and it's your fault. People want to get that out. And so what you need to do is you need to let that complaining party get it out.
Yeah, now, I think that's great advice too. And I want to give a shout out to any leaders who've been in a situation I have before where you're maybe inheriting a unit and you're a new leader to the unit and there's existing conflict there. And sometimes family members or parents kind of want to brief you on all of it. And honestly, my shortcoming is that I didn't want to give everybody all the time that they wanted. I could have used your advice well to sit down with each family and just hear them out. And I think in a lot of ways I've learned, like you said, that takes care of a lot of the conflict in itself, just hearing people out.
It sure does. And Gina, you want the situation to be calm. No yelling, no raising their voice. And I've had situations where one party got so excited and were raising their voice. I said, stop, I'm not going to continue. And I've said that a couple of times. And once I actually closed the meeting and said, we're not talking about this now. This is just too heated. And I've left. There's another technique, though, when the voices start getting raised, that's kind of fun. And I want to pass this on. What I sometimes do, people are starting to amp up the noise. I talk a little bit slower and a little bit quieter. In other words, I drop my voice. I talk softer. It brings down the level of dialogue. And actually, from time to time, that has worked to diffuse a situation where people were just really getting out of control. Okay, now you've had this conversation. You've let the person talk. You want to come up with a proposal to resolve this conflict. Is it possible to move the scout to a different den? Should the concerned parent be more involved in pack leadership? That's not a bad idea. Your objective in all of this is to create a resolution where each side feels good about the solution. Each side walks away feeling that, well, I got to say what I wanted to say, and I felt good about what's going to happen.
I think that that's such a great point because, and you mentioned this in your last section as well, sometimes just ending things by asking, so what kind of resolution are you looking for here? So often I think the, party in conflict hasn't even thought about that. And they realize either there's not an easy solution or just talking about it made them feel better, or I just think it puts them in your shoes.
I agree. And all of a sudden you put the problem in their lap. Well, what do you think we should do? Now, you want to follow up. Let's assume that you reached a resolution, or you're pretty sure you did. Follow up. Pick up the telephone, call the people, take them aside at the next PAC meeting. Hey, is everything okay? Did it work out? Let them know that you still care about them and the issue. Now, if you're not reaching a resolution, now you've got kind of different levels and kind of levels of appeal, but perhaps the PAC committee needs to meet and to discuss the issue and review. Perhaps you need to get more people involved. But I think the overriding principle, as I mentioned at the beginning, think of what's best for the Cub Scout. That's what we care about. It's the Cub Scout and the aims of scouting, and make this as not impact the lessons that we hope that the Cub Scout is receiving.
Fabulous. Shout out to PAC 416. Thanks for tuning in. And a lot of folks, Mike, are saying that this is a great subject. Reminder, right now we're talking about conflict between the PAC, maybe PAC leadership, and a parent or some other family member. So we're talking about all adults in this situation.
That's right. But now, Gina, I want to go to the second issue. What happens if you have an issue with a scout, or if you have an issue between scouts? And when you think about it, we've got kindergartners through 6th grade. What a wide range of physical, emotional, intellectual development. Some youngsters are going to have a little bit of attention deficit disorder. Maybe you've got hyperactive kids. And I hate to use the P word, we've got puberty coming in as we get closer, as the Cubs progress.
Yeah, I'm thinking leave a comment if you're out there and you haven't dealt with some level of conflict with youth. And remember, conflict could be anything from frustration because you can't tie a knot to no one's passing me, no one's kicking the gaga ball my way. There's all kinds of conflict when it comes to youth, for sure.
That's right. And what I think each member of the PAC leadership really should do is get to know all of the Cubs in the PAC. Not necessarily the ones in their den. Get to know all the Cubs. Try to understand if there may be special needs of some Cubs. Generally, in my experience, parents are not particularly shy in explaining, well, listen, my son or daughter has this issue that they need to focus on. And in scouting, we bend over backwards to try to help and accommodate every scout in every situation. But get to know and figure out what issues may be on the horizon with certain scouts. Now, on minor items, it's okay for the pack leader to just step in, act as a parent. If a scout is being disruptive, don't ignore it. Don't let things get out of hand. Don't ignore it. But I like to say that Cub Scouts are like the ocean. You never want to turn your back on them. So don't ignore this. It's supposed to be light, so don't ignore the situation. The pack leader could simply say, "Johnny, I'm talking now," and you just kind of raise their hand and say, "No, not yet." One thing I've done that's worked is if a cub is a little disruptive, a leader goes over and just stands next to the cub or sits down next to the cub. Don't say a word, just stand right next to him. The cub pretty much figures out quickly, maybe I'm a little bit out of line. These are kind of minor things for a disruptive scout. They're going to say, maybe I've been over the line a little bit. Now, on more major issues, more major problems, you really need to take the parent aside. And remember the old axiom, you praise in public, you admonish in private. So take the parents aside if things are really difficult, but be careful, especially careful talking to cubs one-on-one. A little, "Hey, Johnny, you're a little out of line here," or you need to be a little quieter. That's one thing. But if you need to spend some time and talk to that scout in any more detail, I think you better have the parent involved, or at least the parent ought to know what you're going to do and be involved. We've got a lot of mother polar bears out there, and you need to make sure that the family is on board with you if you're going to even gingerly discipline their cub.
Even just a general conversation, I would think as a parent, well, you need to have another adult there. Probably makes sense for it to be the parent. And also thinking just if I'm a parent and my son or daughter is causing a recurring issue in the den or in the pack, I just want to know so that if it did become a huge issue later on, it's not like, what? I never heard anything about this.
That's right. If there's a Cub Scout that has a major behavioral problem or learning issues, you need to work right there with the parents. But what if the problem is Cub Scout to Cub Scout? Well, if you see a problem between scouts, I think you need to address it immediately. And now you've got judgment issues. Do you talk to the scouts together? Do you talk one of them at a time and take the other one aside? Do you involve the parents? These are kind of judgment issues, and you need to think about each situation is going to be a little bit different. However, what if you've got a bullying situation? Wow. Now, this subject on bullying with young people, there's enough material out there to fill 2 libraries. The Boy Scout Handbook, the Scouts BSA Handbook, has some material there that goes directly to the scout. The Webelos Handbook, I was reading that the other night. They do have in the Parents Guide information regarding bullying. But I have to say that I've been lucky. I have never been in a situation where I've had scouts bullying the other. But depending on the severity, you need to perhaps even talk to the scout executive. But these types of issues can't be ignored. Use your judgment, talk to the pack committee, and decide what you're going to do. Now, what if you're told that one of the Cub Scouts needs special accommodation? My scout isn't getting this material, and I'd like you to really bring someone in to help work with him one-on-one. Well, the den and the pack always try to help scouts that are struggling in one way or the other. But do you have a legal duty to go out of your way to provide special accommodations? I don't think so. I'm not aware of any federal or state statute that would require that you do that. What if the scout wants to join the unit and just really, for whatever reason, isn't a very good fit? You probably don't have a legal duty to accommodate that scout, but I would suggest, of course, you work with the scout, find another unit, that type of thing. And if the scout just has an issue that can't be satisfactorily addressed, maybe this is time for a different pack. Maybe the parents need to start their own pack, and maybe a situation where you want the parent to be more actively involved as a den leader or in the pack leadership, to be involved with their son or daughter.
Right. And in that sentiment, you're remembering the points of the scout oath and law. It seems like it's just a nice thing to try to help locate a pack or a unit that can help accommodate any scout, even if it isn't your unit necessarily.
Okay, now the third area we wanted to talk about, what happens if we have conflict in the pack leadership? You know, adults, feelings can get hurt. Sometimes they're just den leaders or committee members that just don't seem to get along for one reason or another. What are you going to do there? Well, let's go back pretty much to the matter, some of the issues and the solutions we discussed with respect to the pack and parents. You're going to use your judgment now. Do you talk to those two leaders together? Do you talk to them one-on-one? What do you think? Use your judgment. Do you discuss in a pack committee meeting? The important thing is, as in the first point, give the opportunity to someone who feels they are aggrieved. Give them the opportunity to get off their chest why they think that things aren't going the way they should. Everyone wants to have that day in court. Give those different pack leadership individuals the opportunity to explain what they think isn't going right, try to resolve, reach a possible solution, follow up, all of those things. Now,
the specifics of these, so much of how you handle these rely on or depend on the specifics of the conflict itself, you know?
That's right. And remember what I said, when you're picking the person to meet with the individual that's got an issue, you want to get the best listener in the whole pack. It may be the Cub Master, it may not be. It may be the committee chair, it may not be. But you want a really good listener who can just sit there and let people get things off the chest they need to do. You know, one technique that you might consider using, I used it on a Philmont track once. It's called Roses and Thorns. Play the game, yes. Roses and Thorns. And all of us scouters understand what that is. You have the meeting, you get the group together. Hey, let's talk about things that are really, really going well. And you talk about those. And then, well, okay, what things are not going so well? People, again, are having an opportunity to express what's on their mind, what seems to be bothering them. Another thing that we did when my wife and I did when our kids were growing up, and we had conflicts, puberty. These young boys were they were a handful. We had what we called a family meeting. Everyone sat down around the kitchen table. Anyone could call the meeting. Someone had to call it. Often I did as the dad, not always. The person who called the family meeting got to talk and explain the problem in as much detail as they wanted, no interruptions. Then it went around the table, and the next person, son or daughter or spouse, had a chance to comment, no interruptions. Next person commented, no interruptions. All the way back to the person who called the family meeting. They said they had the last word, and it was over. There was no discussion. Everyone got off their chest what they wanted, and the meeting was over and walked away. And actually, my oldest son called the family meeting more often than not to explain what he thought was an issue. And I felt that that was a good conflict resolution way to approach the problem.
I like that. I might have to implement that in my own family. Do we have time for a question?
Let me say one other thing, and then we can.
Yes,
what I want to say is, is a technique for resolving conflicts just to ignore a problem and it will go away? A little bit sometimes, but at least in my family, when I ignore a conflict where the family wants to do something and I kind of say, yes, we'll think about it, it always comes back. I really don't think ignoring a problem is really a very effective way to handle things. Now, we have a question, Gina.
Well, it's actually a question I kind of thought of hearing about this. So we've talked about three kinds of conflicts, and I know we could drill this down in a lot of different people who could be involved in a conflict. But when we're talking about like a conflict between leaders, what if the conflict involves you?
Well, I think if that's the case, you need to step back and let someone who you have confidence in the pack, let those individuals, let the pack committee address the issue and talk to you. You can be part of the problem. I think of the situation where my son, going through puberty, going through high school, they're adults. They're not the kids. I became part of the problem, I felt. And so I think that it's possible that you will be part of the problem at some time, and be prepared to step back and let others give their thoughts.
Yeah, that's really important. This is a really great topic all around. I know we only have a few minutes left. We have a lot of viewers out there. Guys, if you have questions or you want to share this with your pack leadership, or maybe you are a leader in a troop and you want to share that with both your fellow adult leaders and your youth members, tag people in the comments wherever you are watching. This video will stay live after today's show. I also just wanted to say, when we're talking about conflict resolution within scouting, it's not like a workplace. It's maybe more like with a family, in terms of that we are setting an example for the youth we're leading. And in a lot of ways, it's a really valuable thing for youth to see how conflict is resolved. And when you're resolving a conflict with a youth, especially, they're learning from you. They're internalizing how they're gonna. It may look different how they have to solve conflicts one day. It might be how they handle not fighting in the comments of a YouTube video or something. But it is important what you're teaching them.
So, Gina, let's summarize very quickly. If you've got conflicts with parents, let them talk. Let them get off their chest the issue. Have their day in court. Summarize the conflict. Develop a plan. Follow up. If you have conflicts with scouts, if they're minor, okay to sort of wear your parent hat. If they're more significant, involve the parents. If they're really serious, you may need to get the pack committee or even the scout executive involved. Conflict with leaders, again, let each party sort of talk and out their issues and what they're worried about. We want all the parties to feel positive with the current solution. And remember, this is scouting. Our principles and our conflict resolution should be grounded in the Scout Oath and the Scout Law, and of course, the aims of scouting. And now I'm ready for the answer to the riddle.
I can't wait. Yes, I want to know.
Okay. What do you call a group of small sheep going down a steep incline? Small sheep, deep incline. You call it a landslide.
Yes. Okay, we have to give a quick shout out to a few viewers who guessed that. That made me laugh mid-sentence. Yes. Okay, we're featuring them on screen. That's the best shout out you can get. I love that. I say take that to a den meeting for sure.
Well, that came from a Cub Scout. So I would also say, if anyone out there has fun Cub Scout riddles that came from their Cub Scouts, let us know, Gina. I would love to use them the next time I'm on Cub Chat Live.
I have a good connection to quite a few jokes that could be pretty good for this show. Okay. Not that you need any. You have so many.
It's a wonderful time talking to you and spending time. Just an important topic. And I appreciate all of those tuning in and any thoughts and comments that they have.
Yes, we appreciate you guys too. Shout out to Jeanette, who's watching from Philmont Scout Ranch. So cool. Guys, check out past episodes of Cub Chat Live at scoutingmagazine.org/Cub Chat Live. You'll see me, you'll see Aaron, and you'll of course see Cub Chat Mike and many other wonderful guests. It's always awesome to have you on Cub Chat Mike. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everybody.